You know, I think one of the funniest movies that you and I could ever watch together would be a compilation of all of the mistakes that I've made throughout my selling career. Because let's face it, you don't make it 10 years in online sales, racking up tens of millions of dollars worth of sales without making a few mistakes along the way. So I imagine you're here to learn the most effective sales techniques that you can use right now to close more sales. And I promise that I will deliver on that. But to set the stage for this, we have to listen to the advice of someone a lot smarter than me. You see, Charlie Munger says,
"All I want to know is where I'm going to die so that I never go there."
And in fact, more important than a to-do list is a not to-do list. So in this video, I'm going to break down the 11 most important things that my private clients do not do that has been responsible for them doubling the industry average close rate. Number 1, show your excitement. You know, Jordan Belfort is on record as saying,
"You must be enthusiastic as hell, sharp as a tack, and an expert in your field."
But you've been there with a sales rep that seems to be too enthusiastic about their product, their service, or their company. And you know from experience that this is super off-putting. In fact, by being too enthusiastic about your product, it can oftentimes come off as disingenuous, or as if the sales rep themselves has more to gain than you do by buying the product. Being too enthusiastic puts your prospect's guard up. So instead, I invite you to relax, sit back, and embrace more of a curious, consultative tone. This is going to help your prospects to actually open up, drop their resistance, and share with you what's really going on so that you can get down to the roots, effectively allowing you to close a lot more sales. Number 2, needing the sale. You see, neediness is creepiness, and it's even a biblical principle.
To he who has more is given, and to he who is not, everything is taken away.
You see, when you're too focused on calculating out the commissions that you're going to generate from a sale, what this actually does is disconnect you from the prospect. And believe you me, they can feel it. You see, they can feel your commission breath, and this drives up sales resistance and down rapport, meaning it's much more challenging to actually uncover what's important to the prospect. And at the end of the day, this is what's going to inform the conversation in a way that drives the sale forward. So you need to put out of your mind what this sale is going to mean for you and instead focus on what it could mean for the customer. We don't want commission breath to be sabotaging our sales. So we need to release the need to close the sale in the first place. And funny enough, when you actually do this, you'll find it's much easier to close sales. Number 3, get better at selling. You see, the issue with this is it actually goes in complete opposition to how people make purchasing decisions. You see, focusing on how do I sell better goes directly against this one principle of human psychology. We love to buy things. We love to buy things that make our life better. We love to buy things that make us feel good. However, we hate the feeling of being sold to. So instead of focusing on how do I get better at selling, instead focusing on how can I create a compelling buying experience for my customers will actually yield you way more sales. And here's a quick tip. Selling is actually strategic questions that support your prospect with coming to their own educated decision as to why they should buy from you. Number 4, assume what they need. Here's the issue. When we assume what a prospect needs, it keeps us from actually asking the clarifying questions that allow themselves to hear themselves say what they really need, which prevents them from buying into the product, the program, or the solution that you're actually trying to sell. Think about it like this. Prescription without diagnosis in the medical profession is malpractice, and the same principle applies to sales. You see, we must adequately diagnose a prospect before making our presentation, or our prescription, in other words, in order for them to actually trust said prescription and move forward. Don't assume what they need, even if you think you're really, really good at it, because this will actually sabotage your sales. Instead, focus on listening so that they feel understood, at which point they will be willing to trust your guidance and buy from you. Number 5, tell them what they need to know. You see, this is a huge myth in sales, that selling is telling. In fact, it's not. It's strategic questions that allow our prospects to come to their own educated decision as to why they should buy from you in the first place. So we want to use the 80-20 rule. If we are talking more than 20% of the time on a sales call, the chances are you're missing a lot of sales that you could be closing in the first place. You see, you should really only be talking about 20% of the time, and the majority of that 20% should be questions that illuminate for a prospect what hurts, what they want, what the cost is if nothing changes, why it's important to them, why they should buy from you, etc. Now, the 7 questions that are responsible for tens of millions of dollars in sales are broken down in this video that I will link to you at the end of this one, but don't click off of this yet because there are still a few keys that you better not make if you want to be closing sales. So stick around and I'll link to that at the end. Number 6, bash your competition because,
Of course, if I want someone to buy from me, they need to view my competition as terrible. They obviously can't think anything highly of my competition or they won't buy from me in the first place.
huge misconception. In fact, bashing your competition degrades your authority. It makes you look weak, as if you're potentially afraid of them. We never want to bash our competition openly, especially not with a prospect. Instead, there's 2 simple strategies that you can use to position yourself as superior without you having to say it. Because listen, if I say it, you doubt it. But if you say it, you own it. So the first of those 2 strategies is what's called the 2 truths. You see, if someone says,
Yeah, I've been using X product.
we can ask,
So John, tell me, what is it that you like about X product?
and he'll tell us. And then we can ask,
Okay, John, is there anything else that you like about it?
and let him continue to talk about what he likes, because effectively what he's doing is pouring out the cup of resistance. Then we can ask,
Okay, well, that makes perfect sense. Now, John, just curious, what would you change about that if you could?
at which point, of course, he's going to voice 1 or 2 small grievances with that product. Because here's the thing, no matter how happy someone is with anything in their life, there's always this small margin for improvement that they would like to have. So John will say,
Say, well, I guess it'd be nice if they did this, or if it did this.
at which point now we can ask,
Okay, but why is that important to you?
and then
Well, why is that important to you now, though?
which then sets us up perfectly to be able to position our product or our solution as different, and it meets his needs. Number 2, in a more simple sense, we can just simply ask,
Okay, well, just out of curiosity, what's kept you with moving forward with Company X up till now?
because whatever it is that's kept him from buying from Company X up till now, we need to make sure that we position our product as different so that we can actually capitalize on his desires and move the sale forward. Number 7, push for yes. This is a widely pushed, complete myth in sales. And frankly, there used to be some validity to it back when people had way lower selling resistance years ago. This was the principle that if I can get my prospects saying yes over and over and over again leading up to the close, that somehow they're going to agree to say yes to the close, essentially gaining micro commitments along the way so that they'll somehow just say yes. Here's the thing. We've all been in the position with a pushy sales rep that is asking no-brainer, almost stupid yes-based questions with the intention of trying to yes us to the close. And what does that do? It throws up our own resistance because we feel like it's pushy. Instead, if we give the prospects the safety of saying no, it lets them feel comfortable and secure such that they'll open up and actually share with us what's really going on. So here's a quick example of how this can look. Instead of asking,
Hey, John, would you like to make more money?
because obviously this sounds salesy,
Right? Hey, John, would you like to lose some weight?
Instead, we can ask,
Now, John, just curious, are you happy with the current income that you're bringing home?
No.
Well, why not?
when the prospect is able to say no, this makes them feel at ease. In fact, it helps them feel free, smart, and in control, which is vital for us being able to move the sale forward. We just need to engineer a few questions where the no answer actually moves the sale forward. Again,
John, are you happy with your current product?
Well, not particularly.
Well, why not?
this is going to help in a huge way to reduce sales resistance and assist us with moving the sale forward. Number 8, practice your pitch. Do you remember the old Billy Mays commercials, right?
Billy Mays here for OxyClean.
He had a perfectly rehearsed pitch, right, that talked about all the features and benefits of every product that he sold. Now, here's the thing. When we're in a one-on-one sales conversation with someone, if we use a pre-crafted, generic, over-the-top, enthusiastic pitch, then what this actually does is depersonalize from the prospect. And at the end of the day, all they care about is what's in it for me. So if we depersonalize, we run the risk of a couple things that will sabotage our sales. One, the prospect doesn't actually feel understood, and so thus they are not going to trust our prescription. Number 2, if we cover things that are not important to them, it degrades the overall perceived value of our solution. And number 3, we essentially empty our clip. Now there's this old Western adage that is, who's the person who's going to lose a gunfight? Well, it's the person who runs out of ammo first. So here's the thing. If we just dump all of our potential arguments for why our product or our service is valuable in the first place right up front in our pitch, well, then when the prospect has concerns, we have nothing left with which to build value. However, instead, if we keep things super simple and just focused only on what they've voiced as important to them, one, we run the opportunity of just being able to close the sale without even disclosing everything, and then on the back end, it's a surprise that they get extra stuff. Or 2, we are able to then address concerns and questions that come up by looping in additional things that we have yet to talk about, which builds value, and it keeps us from running the risk of,
you should just do this.
Because frankly, that's really not all that compelling. So don't empty your clip with a perfect pitch that discloses everything it possibly could up front. Number 9, apply external pressure to help close the deal faster. Now, this one is a bit insidious because obviously there needs to be some sort of pressure for a prospect to change in the first place because it's uncomfortable for them to exchange dollars for your program, product, or solution, especially if there's any effort on their part. However, external pressure is way less effective than intrinsic pressure and urgency that we can bring about with the right questions. You see, external pressure, like,
you need to buy now or the price is going up,
for example, puts external pressure on a prospect, which increases resistance. It feels slimy and pushy. However, if a prospect is in touch with their intrinsic sense of urgency as to why they can't wait to solve this problem, for example, then they're going to be compelled into action at a much greater rate than if we're trying to apply external pressure. So we need to focus again on intrinsic urgency, and this is done with the right questions. Again, make sure to check out the video that I link at the end of this one, the 7 vital questions that you must be asking, because there's a couple in there that work like magic to increase a prospect's sense of intrinsic urgency to help move sales forward in a way that doesn't feel pushy or slimy. Number 10, leave the prospect in control. You see, we make decisions emotionally, and then we back them up with logic after the fact. And a decision to buy and a decision to not buy, they're both going to be things that a prospect backs up logically after the fact. So I know that you've been there because frankly, I've been there myself, and I used to make this mistake way too much and it cost me a ton of money, where someone says,
hey, this all sounds great, but let me check my finances or let me talk to my wife and I'll get back to you in a week.
We think,
oh, sweet, sounds good. They just got to move a little bit of money around, get permission, and we are good to go.
So we mistakenly have a sense of hope here. In fact, if we don't close this sale on the spot, the chances of it actually coming around and closing drop to less than 5%. So please don't make this mistake. We need to be able to keep control over the interaction, because whatever the prospect does on the spot, chances are they're going to remain in alignment with that decision after the fact. Number 11, avoid confrontation at all costs. Now this one is going to build upon number 10. All right, we have this common misconception in sales that people buy from the people that they like, when in fact this is just not true. Now, being liked certainly doesn't hurt your sale, but that's not what's going to close it in the first place. It's actually this. People buy what's going to solve their problem from someone they trust as an authority to make the recommendation. It's far more important that our prospect feels understood and views us as an authority who can lead them to the promised land than it is to be liked. And so, when you have that gut feeling, you need to listen to it. If you feel it, say it. For example, a prospect is maybe all over the place, seems distracted. We need to actually voice,
You know, John, it seems like you're a bit distracted right now. Is now not a good time to discuss this?
or for example, someone feels really pulled back and closed off. We could say,
You know, John, it seems like maybe this isn't really all that important to you to solve right now.
when we actually speak our gut feeling, this brings to light a few things. One, oftentimes a prospect that was feeling standoffish, because they're being communicated now in a direct, authentic way, will actually be honest and disclose what's really going on so that we can help move this sale forward towards a solution. Or number two, they're going to be like,
Oh yeah, I'm sorry, I was just distracted. There's a lot going on right now.
right? If we don't voice this gut feeling, though, and we just stick to the surface level topical answers of our script and move forward with the presentation and the pitch, and they don't close, we'll never know why. This is huge, okay? We need to ask our questions and facilitate sales interactions not to be liked, but instead we need to do it to make a difference. Again, orchestrate your process not around being liked, but making a difference. You see, rapport comes as an inevitable byproduct of a prospect feeling seen, heard, and understood, not by us trying to be likable or agreeable. These 11 simple principles have been responsible for tens of millions of dollars in sales, so please act on them right away. And in fact, the best way that you can take the next step is to watch this video here on the 7 vital sales questions that you must be asking in the context of a sales interaction. Frankly, missing just one of these simple questions will sabotage your sales. If you've appreciated what I've shared with you up to this point, do me a quick favor and hit the like button and subscribe on your way out if you haven't already. And I will see you in the next one.